Hey, it's me and Joe. Joe
Hey,
is just, there we are. That's right. Joe is just dying to talk about this Afghanistan situation, and right now he's not in the best of ways with our friends at YouTube, who are known for their censorious nature. I asked him to come on my stream and do something crazy. It's last week of summer, whatever. I don't know. I don't have a call till 2:15. Joe, what's on your mind? Anything bothering you?
so like everyone else, I'm very saddened by what we heard today. In case you're unaware, so there was a bombing in the airport at Kabul. We know that there are casualties, among them American casualties. Although, when it comes to casualties, it shouldn't matter that. It makes a mild difference for some reasons, emotionally and psychologically, that some of them are Americans. But honestly, the fact that people are dying of any stripe is obviously is awful, and I want to thank you for setting this up and doing it so quickly,
You're
and letting me
welcome.
come on your show. So there's so many thoughts I have about this that I just wanted to discuss with someone I respect, such as yourself.
Okay,
And
thank you.
the reports about this, the threat of this, they had credible reports that came out a couple hours beforehand, and and still the bombing came out because we have no control in the country at all.
That's what
And
happens when you when you evacuate with no plan.
yeah, yeah,
uh, You know,
and I saw someone tweet out something that wasn't even directed at me. I was looking at some other thread, and someone commented, it was actually in when the news reports were being aired before the bombing. So the thinking that someone from the left just tweeted out in response to this report that there are credible threats that there might be a bombing coming at the Kabul airport was, why would they do that? They know they're going to have control on August 31st. Why would they do that? And when I saw that, like, my sadness over this bombing turned to a form of rage. And it's something that we all should feel, this sense of rage. If you've watched my channel enough, you know that I know that you, Ron, you know my father, Dr. Nierman, and he has a doctorate in Muslim Christian relations, from medieval Muslim Christian relations, but the nature of the personality hasn't changed, and I've learned
you
so
you
much
you
from
don't mean
him.
of your father's personality. You mean the nature
Right.
of relations between Muslims and Christians, how they see each other
Correct.
culturally.
Yes, and how they and how the nature of their own cultures impact their perspectives when dealing with each other. So because and this is what people really fail to understand. There's a natural inclination towards assuming people are people, and at the end of the day, we all love our children. We all want to, what's best for ourselves, yes, and but also for others. That's the dominant feeling that's pervasive and universal, and to a degree that's true. It is true, but what people fail to understand is that qualifier of what's best is completely different from one culture to another. So, yes, just like any Judeo-Christian culture, even if you're not a religious person, you're raised in the Western atmosphere. So it's pervasive. You're in the soup, the environment, that you just have certain Western philosophies. And you might disagree with your neighbor about, what's right and wrong, but overall attitudes are going to be the same. And they're not the same as an Asian perspective, and they're not the same as a Middle Eastern perspective. And no one should take what I'm saying as a claim that one is superior to the other, because I think that's stupid. I don't think that Western perspective is superior to Middle Eastern perspective. They're just different. as to like what's best and what you should be seeking for and looking for long term, and how you should approach situations. So when we are approaching situations where we're involved with people who are coming from a different culture, for us to foolishly take a perspective of, well, people are people, they're going to want what's best for their children, and they're going to act as I would act, is dumb. And it's if it's innocent and it doesn't really impact anything, okay, so you're being dumb. But now,
or you might end up getting ripped off in the bazaar.
right? Okay, yes, exactly. You might end up looking stupid. That's a great point. For example, when just a basic thing that not having to do with this situation, but everyone could easily understand. Okay, if you're shopping in the Middle East and you go into a market there and you see a price for any commodity, whatever, some tchotchke, some wood carving that you think is really, looks cool, would look good on your coffee table. So you say, how much does it cost? And they will give you a price. And the price that they're going to give you will be usually twice as much as what they're expecting to sell it for.
At least.
Yes. Because they know you're going to be bargaining down. That is just the culture.
Or they assume.
Yeah.
They don't, because actually, if you're a Yankee, they might not really think that if they understood that we usually go into a store and ask the price and pay it.
Yeah.
Or
and
we decide
that's the funny thing. I actually did as a joke. I was with some friends once, like where I went into like Best Buy, and I was like, shopping. I was shopping for I don't know, like a speaker or whatever, and I asked how much the price of something was, and they're like $320. So I said to the saleswoman, all right, I'll give you $140, and she's like looking at me like, I'm so confused. What does that mean? What does that mean? And because that's and I was I had just come back from Israel, so I was like totally making a joke, but the point is that's just not something we do here. But the Middle Eastern mindset in commerce is a thinking that the buyer always wants to feel like he's getting a good deal. If I jack up the price to a ridiculously stupid high price, then I'll cut my price down to him. He'll feel like he got a good deal, and everyone's happier about the situation. So is that type of exchange worse than what we do here in America? No, it's just a different form of exchange. Now that's just the mindset in one area, but that difference in cultural mindset is pervasive in a lot of different areas, and some of them with respect to warring parties and showing your signs of strength. In fact, in certain ways, you can actually look at commerce as being reflective of that. It's like, I want to sort of win this battle that, hey, I do want to buy that thing. He does want to sell it to me. Who's going to win the battle as to where that price point is going to be set? And that's just sort of how they're thinking about it. And one of the things I've learned from my father, who, as I said, is really an expert in this and understands the mindset and has deep respect for the mindset, but understands the differences in the mindset, is that a Middle Eastern mindset wants to feel victory. It's just like in commerce. They want to feel victory. And they also, when they see weakness, a Judeo-Christian philosophy, and it could be because partially it's imbued in us because of religion somewhat, but that they sort of, we see someone suffering, and, our natural direction that we've been trained to feel, perhaps, I don't know if you call it natural as far as genetic. I don't think it's genetic, though. I think perhaps it's something that's hardwired into us by our environment, is to feel a sense of sympathy. And that's just, and while Middle Easterners can be very kind and merciful, when they're looking at an enemy, somebody who they feel has wronged them, if they see someone coming and offering compromise, they think to themselves, why is this person offering me compromise? It must be they are in a position of weakness.
Right.
And if they are in a position of weakness, they're my enemy, and it is my job to destroy them.
Okay, so
when you... Yeah, go on.
I mean, got that. I think we got that. I think that anyone who has looked at world events and American involvement in the Middle East, if they people who haven't picked that up, well, that includes a large number of people, including many who are in power right now. I get that. Two things, of course. Just one is a trivial one, but I made fun of one of my friends on Twitter for just this yesterday. I don't have to tell you, Afghanistan is not in the Middle East.
Okay.
Right? It's Asia Minor. But you're still, I think for purposes of this conversation,
cultural mindset. It's cultural mindset.
It's still the same.
More than geography.
And the point is, it's an Eastern mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Second, more importantly, is it not an empirical question whether or not the Taliban did this? I mean, my understanding, they're tell me what you understand. Do you have? I mean, in other words, I have seen, and I'm just things are wheezing by. It's a work day. Working on revisions to a brief.
Right.
But what I've picked up is that there seems to be an operating hypothesis that this may have been done by ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is it? And if the Taliban's in control, like, what steps do you think they actually took to try and prevent it? Do you think it hurts the Taliban that this happened? In what way does this hurt the Taliban? I don't think we need to know. I don't think we need to identify who the perpetrator is.
Okay, so the point is, you're not just answering that question. Why would the Taliban do this? You're saying, why would this happen?
Right.
And why wouldn't, or better yet, why wouldn't the Taliban make sure this wouldn't happen?
Exactly.
By the way,
what motivation do they have to stop it?
Right.
They have none
at all. In fact, if as you say, there's already, there are all these signals of weakness being broadcast from the United States,
and it's more than that. Before we go further, I just want to point out. I want to point out one thing. It's not just taking advantage, but it's also making a display by the leaders to their following, a show that we are actually strong and in control. So it's and the real key point from my perspective, one of the first things I thought is, they don't want to look as if they took over the scraps that America left behind, but that they actually chased us out. That is the benefit to the Taliban. That it's not a matter of that they're in control, that they took over, and from the day that they're there, it's not. Look, maybe they don't want to pick a huge fight and rile up America into coming after them and carpet bombing them. But the more weakness they smell, the more they feel like America doesn't want to come back here, and the more aggressive they may be, and thousands more can be hurt or killed, God forbid. That's what I'm saying. This is not. I'm not simply looking at this as to the terrible, terrible tragedy that happened today, but the ramifications over the next couple of weeks of how we respond. Because if our response is just to be like, wow, that really stinks, and Jem Psaki said we're not stranding them there. I guess they don't feel pretty stranded right now. I mean, we're on the phone with them, so they can be on the phone while bombs are going off around them. That's her saying they're not stranded. Yeah, don't worry. We talk to them twice a day. Like, it's mind-boggling.
It shouldn't be mind-boggling, right? We know that these people will call black, white, and day, night because they are confident that they will not be called on it either by their political allies, because they don't have the Mitt Romneys, lecturing them from within the party and telling them what's the right thing to do, because they are a party. They have true party discipline like Bolsheviks, mm-hmm. right? And also they know that, at least until very recently, and Afghanistan, a lot of people are saying, was the straw that broke the camel's back on this. They had the media. Mm-hmm. And it's why, Joe, why do you think the media is beginning to break ranks on this of all things? I mean, all the illegality, all the, the stealing of an election, if you were the kind of person who believed in stealing elections, which we don't, YouTube would never say that, but all the dubious conduct, why Afghanistan? I mean,
because it could have been anything. Biden has outlived his usefulness. His usefulness was that he was a sufficiently respectable face that they could put on a ballot to remove Donald Trump. So
You want to explain, Joe, to the people who are listening what a golem or a golem is?
yeah, so the famous incident is from the I think the 17th century. There was a very learned top rabbi of the Jewish community named the Maharal, who had, according to legend, created from a mass of earth. He formed the image of a man and used Kabbalistic principles to imbue him with life and basically make this creature a mindless servant of his to basically protect the Jewish community.
Some people say that the legend of the golem was the inspiration for the Frankenstein story.
Yes. Right.
So I said a long time ago that is what Joe Biden is. He doesn't even have to be sentient, as we see, or at least not always sentient. He just has to do what he's told by whoever's telling him.
And I don't think he has sufficient cognitive abilities to actually say no. Look, when he was asked a question off script yesterday at some point after he gave his speech, and someone asked him a question and they cut his mic. And I think, and I speculated, for him to answer that question, first he has to be able to understand what the question means. Then he has to have the information, which I doubt he does. I doubt he has the information relevant to what's being asked. Then he has to formulate an answer, and then he has to articulate it. Those are 4 steps, and I'm not sure he would get past, step 1. Much less step 2, where he actually would know enough to actually answer the question, because there is clearly, when people, we keep talking about the deep state, there is clearly a circle of people who are running this country, and Joe Biden has no part of it, other than that he is the figurehead because he's the respectable face. But
which, by the way, is a pretty good deal for him.
Yeah,
pretty good deal for him. He, for a guy who has really so little to show in terms of positive accomplishments and political appeal. All right, but listen, this is like late night MAGA, stuff.
Right. So I didn't
back to your point though. Afghanistan, right? So there's this perception, smell of fear.
The smell and the smell of fear there. Look, do I know whether it was ISIL or whether? And I do prefer the term ISIL to ISIS because it's a reference to the entire Levant, and that was actually the one good thing I think Barack Obama did, was that he started talking ISIL instead of ISIS. But I think that it doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't matter, because if America capitulates and basically doesn't show force, it will only escalate. And there are more people there who are potentially in harm's way. It cannot. I don't want to go back into Afghanistan, other than, I think it was Charlie Kirk who speculated and asked yesterday, why can't we march in there full force and take over Afghanistan for a week, get out all the people, get out almost like it's a rescue mission, and while we're there, pick back up the $3 billion in military equipment that we left behind there, which Nancy Pelosi seems to think happens in every engagement. It's like you leave your socks behind when you go camping. So we happen to leave a couple of Blackhawks and Apaches and Humvees all over the place in Afghanistan. That's just going to happen. I don't even know what these people are talking about, but. Yeah, and his question, and at this point, it becomes that much more important. If we don't act, I am terrified that they will be that much more emboldened. The beheadings that, God forbid, the beheadings of journalists we saw, a dozen years ago, that it's going, or 10 years ago, we're going to see terribleness here if we do not respond, whether it was perpetrated by the Taliban or the ISIL.
What's the response, Joe?
I'm saying is I think we need to go in there with like a significant force.
Oh, so you're endorsing Charlie's idea.
But I don't want to take over Afghanistan. I simply look at it as a rescue mission. The same way the raid on Entebbe was a rescue mission. But over here, we're not trying to save 47 people. You're trying to save who knows how many thousands, because they won't even tell us how many people they're estimating that we need to get out of there. We just hear Joe Biden tell us that, in the last 12 hours alone, we got 4,000 people out. Yeah, okay, 4,000. He doesn't say how many are Americans. He just
Mhm.
says, he just says we got out 4,000 people. It could have been like 3 Americans and 3,900 different nationalities or Afghanis who are desperately trying to flee, and we should protect them. Obviously, if they helped us, we should protect them and try and be sure that they're safe and vetted, but still at the same time save their lives if we have solid reason to believe that they're in jeopardy. Every human life is valuable, and so especially if they're well-meaning and good people trying to help society. But what I'm saying is, yes, I do endorse that plan, if only because if we don't do it, it will be so much worse. It's terrifying. The tragedy we saw today will just unfold and make and embolden into far worse carnage and far more destruction. And it's I don't know how to. I feel as if all the people who are from the deep state administration, I don't even call it the Biden administration, the deep state administration, that they basically, they seem to not get it. They either don't want to get it or they don't understand as to how this weakness and the fact that they're fleeing and leaving, their socks behind in the forms of billions of dollars of equipment, how that is what emboldens a Middle Eastern mindset to say, you know what, I want to show this is a great time for me to show my strength over my enemies, and it will only raise my stature far more significantly.
So, Joe, I mean, what do you think, though? I mean, this is such an old story, right? I mean, Jimmy Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone saw what it meant.
Weakness.
When you project weakness instead of strength.
Mm-hmm.
And then, this happens all the time in American politics. And, it's like, it is the way they do business in Western Europe because they have the United States. It's an issue in Israel all the time. How many, things are a little bit more confusing there. But if you're a Democratic, you're somewhat smart, like Susan Rice, who people say is supposed to really be the one who's probably running things, along with Obama. These are not stupid people. What you're describing, this idea that a demonstration of weakness leads to exploitation of the situation by those who are aggressive. This is not news, right?
Right. You're saying how do they miss it?
Not that how they miss it. What are they telling themselves? Is it cognitive dissonance, or is it a belief that, for example, all this the Iran deal, Hey, we're gonna if we reach out to Iran and it's going to be a partner, it's going to take up. And I remember learning some of this stuff in political science. If you allow it to feel that it is a regional hegemon, it will take on the responsibility of being a regional hegemon in a responsible way, and it will step up with it. And again, this is that lack of understanding of the mindset.
It's like naming the worst kid in the class as far as the officer in charge of maintaining discipline in the class.
Which sometimes works.
Yes.
Which sometimes works.
Like you're in charge of making sure the whole class behaves well. And that's what, and you do that, and that does be effective. Yeah, it can be effective.
But there's got to be somebody at the table that says, but wait a minute, that's not how it works among our enemies. That's not how it works. That's a very Western European way of thinking and a modern way.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the history of wars in Europe, the same thing happened in the 30 years. I mean, name your European war. It's always been this is not all that unique to an Asian mindset. A show of weakness will result in exploitation. I just don't. I'm trying to get a grip of what were they thinking.
The simplest answer is it always comes back to the same thing. The same way a leader in the Taliban or ISIL wants to give the proper image to his supporters that I'm the strong one, the people here in the West, especially among the left, they want to give the image to their supporters that I am the person who got us out of Afghanistan. I'm the one I'm the one who took us out, and the ramifications be damned at the end of the day, as far as look, we're the people who are taking care of things in the wokest way possible, and were they short-sighted in their expectations? I think they were clearly foolish in their expectations as to how fast, the Afghani government would collapse and Taliban would just come marching in there. We saw the ridiculous prognostications by Joe Biden that was made on July 8th. He didn't come up with that on his own. His circle told him to say that no, they're not coming in. There's no way that they're going to come in. So they all clearly underestimated, or either underestimated the Taliban or vastly overestimated the Afghanis. But their strength is not actually figuring out how things will work. Their strength is purely in messaging. And then when things go badly, spin it and just spin it again. And know that the media ultimately is going to support you. In this situation, when the media turned on Joe Biden, I think that may have surprised some people. It certainly surprised Nancy Pelosi. Because if you think about it, a lot of people on the left, they all were attacking Joe Biden. Nancy Pelosi got up there and she said, hey, we left our socks behind. That happens. That's going to happen in every engagement. She clearly is either not part of this deep state or is not sufficiently significant in the deep state. And it surprises me because I would have thought she was, one of the top up there. But that she is going against that messaging and protecting Joe Biden and saying, yeah, everything, giving the same message he's giving, even as her own circle seems to be like, shooting arrows at Joe Biden, sounds to me as if she's either against this plan for them to remove Biden. Maybe she doesn't like Kamala, whatever. I don't know. Maybe she doesn't think the timing's right. But clearly, she was taking a completely opposite stance from the rest of the people on the left. And they always walk in lockstep. Maybe not the progressive section. The progressive section, they have their own agenda as far as how they want to get more powerful amongst the left. But there clearly is division as far as what the right approach is within the establishment Democrats.
So I want to just respond to some comments. Catnip Dave makes the point that this was the moment. In other words, assessing what was going on here and seeing who's in charge. I mean, is there anyone who ever doubted that once you put a zombie in charge of things, it's inevitable that there are going to be opportunities for people who to make mischief in situations like this.
Well, I think what Catnip Davis is saying over here, I actually have heard theories that the left actually figured that having Biden in there was a win-win situation, because when things go to hell, so he becomes a very easy scapegoat who is not going to be running in 2024. So that turning on Biden gives an opportunity to say, yeah, we all saw that Biden wasn't the right answer, and now it's time to move on to Kamala.
Well, that's a nice point. I mean, Kamala is not going to be the answer, and either she's been
so silent. Dead silent. We don't hear anything from her about Afghanistan.
So evidently she has made a point of saying that she refuses to have this hung around her neck. Mm-hmm. She's not going to take the fall for this in any way. There's a reason that she should.
Right. But which makes the timing of leaving Afghanistan actually make a lot of sense. Because he didn't have to, everyone knows he didn't have to follow what Trump did. On January 20th, he's sworn in. Every EO that Trump had passed, he undid in 10 seconds, even if it would hurt poor people. We saw that EO, which had American First on the medications, which had dropped down the monthly cost for diabetics from like $600 to $60. And with a snap of a pen on January 20th, he crossed that out because it had Trump's name on it. No other reason than it had Trump's name on it. And he crossed it out.
That was the same mentality as the ripping up of the State of the Union.
Address. Yeah, I mean, and now, what's he saying now? He's like, oh, we're gonna have to try to figure out a way to negotiate with Big Pharma to reduce their prices. No, just write the damn same EO, put your name on it. Why would you do that unless you're in their pocket? But I mean, everyone knows it worked. But it's all messaging. They don't care about being effective. It's all messaging. And there's a fight in Washington amongst the left as to which messaging we're going to have. And they're all basically like the Roman Senate trying to figure out how do I rise up to the most power. And that's where, and who do I favor? Which guy do I want to support? The ones who are not actually going to be rising to power, but CNN is like, okay, which faction do I want to support? Am I going with Brutus? Am I going with Mark Antony?
Joe, I've got a call coming up.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much. I think talking stuff out with you was really helpful.
Well, that's good. I mean, I'm glad I could help you out with that. I didn't. you just want to make sure, are there any other anything else that you wanted to get out on this? And hopefully you'll be able soon to get back on your regular stream and, do a long form version of what we're doing now. But
I want to tell your people that I'm not even sure if we're streaming right now on your original channel or on Culmination.
It seems that I'm not either. I think because when I look, we're
never going to find this. We're never going to find this.
The stream I tweeted, but I think that this is on my regular channel now because I never added Culmination as a destination.
Oh,
on StreamYard. So.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love watching someone else who's almost as much of a boomer as I am. So I appreciate you doing that's solid. I'm gonna boomer it up further by referring to it as you did me a solid. So
I love that hep talk of you young people. People.
I want to tell if you are not, you need to subscribe and hit the bell on Culmination because the guy.
Oh, thank you.
He does such phenomenal work. I almost never catch it. I never catch it until like 2 days later, and I'm like, wow, I never really thought about that. That's great. And every guest is like an A-list celebrity person you get on there. Why would you go anywhere else? I just don't understand how you haven't exploded yet, but it's coming soon.
No, I haven't exploded, and I may not ever explode because take care of that. It seems that's just not my destiny. But you know what we'll do? We'll since we have a few people here, I will do a screen share of the main website and explain to people who don't already know that this is where you subscribe to the podcast. You can obviously get it in all these different places, right? Google and Apple and Spotify, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I'm proud to say we had Kurt Schlichter drop today. A fantastic interview with Robert George, Robbie Starbucks, the insane Adam Townsend, Joe Kent running for Congress, Zuby Music, Will Chamberlain who's getting married this weekend. Crazy stuff, fantastic stuff. Thanks for mentioning it, Joe. And
thank you. I really appreciate that.
So long, everybody.
To get this out.
Okay, I'm sorry. I hope you feel a little bit less emotional. It's not all bottled up. If I can do it any other time, just let me know. See you later, guys.
You're the best. Thank you.